The word feedback has now become commonplace in any work setting, and in this context, it identifies a tool for communicating information or criticisms about an attitude, a behavior, and, in general, about a performance given at work. In other words, feedback indicates return information that people receive about how they behaved, which opens their mind to new and different insights and perspectives. Therefore, feedback seems almost indispensable to ensure that another person can change attitudes and behaviors. Research in organizational psychology attests to a moderate influence of feedback on performance, although not always in the expected direction. So, not always receiving feedback leads to improving one's performance. In fact, a meta-analysis found that, although on average receiving feedback on how one behaved improves performance, in 1/3 of the studies, the opposite is observed. That is, performance deteriorates after receiving feedback. Other studies have also shown that not only performance, but also satisfaction, morale, and self-esteem are affected by negative feedback, which can also increase stress and the feeling of being treated unfairly. The reason is that sometimes a feedback that is negative in content, rather than stimulating the recipient to problem solving and to focusing on what and how to improve, leads them to shift attention to themselves. By doing so, the person begins to doubt their abilities and enters a circle of debilitating ideas, ruminating on everything they can't do, instead of focusing on what resources they have and could mobilize to do better in the future. Moreover, even a positive feedback, which reassures the person that she has done well, could have paradoxical effects and lead to worsening the performance rather than improving it. This occurs, for example, when the feedback does not allow to learn and reflect on which specific elements have guaranteed success, so that they can hardly be recreated, or when it leads the person to relax on their successes without offering opportunities and incentives to increase their efforts for the future. It turns out, and even a careful observation of our own experiences might suggest it, that beyond the content, what matters a lot is the way in which feedback is communicated. The first fundamental element is that the feedback is specific and detailed, as well as timely. It should also be formulated in a constructive and non-judgmental way, so as not to immediately activate the psychological resistances of the recipient. Crucially, it should be focused on what happened and on the actions that the person has undertaken, which can be changed. Conversely, feedback that targets the person as a whole and their way of being would be much more difficult to process and therefore will likely prove ineffective. The different elements that make feedback successful are even more effective than if they are calibrated on the person who receives it. That is, on their personality traits, as well as their inclination to receiving and openness to feedback. We will discuss these aspects in other videos, and the goal is to activate a reflection on the feedback that we all give every day and very often automatically, but which can be refined to improve our interactions and relationships with others.